All right, we've reached the Columbus part of the show. And, I had thought about this. I had thought about throwing these on and saying the future's so bright for Columbus, you gotta wear shades. But I digress. I like what Columbus has going on. I know they got knocked out in the first round this year in 5. I know it's highly likely that a Tortorella coach team is going to regress next year. It's the role of Tortorella. He is such a polarizing figure that it is really hard to get a team to play for him and then continue playing for him. Because his act can wear thin. But that being said, I like their team. And I know they have cap issues. At current cap levels, they have $2.9 million in space for next year. And they need to add more and figure out this mix. And that's without me even projecting Sam Gagner returning to the team. He can't. Unless, and the $2.9 million projected, there are some caveats to that, so we'll get into that. Brendan Saad, Dubinsky, Nick Foligno, Scott Hartnell for another 2 years. I know everybody wants to trade Hartnell. Everybody says Hartnell's got to go. Where for what? I like Scott Hartnell. I must be the only Scott Hartnell fan who thinks that for his cap hit, it's okay for the next 2 years. And he's not the reason that they have cap issues. It's an obvious contract to point to, yes. But I like Hartnell. I've been a Scott Hartnell fan for years now. Atkinson, fantastic. Jenner, Calvert, Carlson, and then up-and-coming guy like Milano. Sedlak really overachieved this year and showed he's got a really strong work ethic. He'll be back next year. Hannakainen, Bjorkstrand is still developing. There's a lot to like in Columbus. There's a lot of reasons as a fan of the Jackets to be excited if you're a fan of the Jackets, and I'm borderline. I cheered for them in the first round because they're the underdog, but they're not a team I actively. I watched them a lot this year because that huge winning streak they went on. Unfortunately, the huge winning streak elevated their standing beyond where they actually were in terms of a team. It was an incredible run they went on, and it raised the bar probably a little too high, especially in that division where you have perennial contenders, Pittsburgh, the Rangers, and the Capitals, and it's so tough to escape that division in the playoffs. That you kind of lose the fact that this team is really good. Here's the other thing. In RFA, you have Josh Anderson, who's going to get a raise. Anderson is heart and soul. It was funny because at the start of the year, I'm like, Josh Anderson. I looked at his stats, I'm like, whatever. But watching Columbus games, I have to admit, he's a very useful player. He could be a future captain there. Like, he's a guy, too, you can tell that the players really get behind him. And then the big one's Alexander Wenberg. That contract is going to push probably Mr. Cap Space right out the window because they've got Clarkson. Clarkson's the one I didn't mention. Clarkson is $5.25 million that goes right on LTIR every October. That being said, Wenberg's going to get paid. Rightfully so. He played fantastic this year. He's going to make a lot of money. And it's going to eat into that cap space. Their blue line is set. You've got Jones, Johnson, Savard, Murray, Werenski, fantastic. Gabriel Carlson, Nudavara, who when he came in I thought was kind of sloppy and I thought he was overrated. By the end of the year I liked him. And Scott Harrington, who quietly does his job as a number 6 guy. And you can't fault those guys and you need them in your lineup. That's why Canuck fans suddenly had an affection for Lucas Biza as the season went along, because he started showing that maybe he's useful to keep in the lineup. Overpaid, yes, and some of these guys end up being overpaid, but useful to have in the lineup. And Scott Harrington's that for Columbus. In net, you've got Bobrovsky, who's on a $7 million a year contract, approximately. It's more than $7 million, but it doesn't matter because the backups are both restricted. Anton Forsberg and Jonas Korpisalo. Korpisalo's the better of the two. I'm not sure which one they're leaning towards keeping, because at certain points in time over the last couple of years, they seem to be favoring either one. I think Forsberg probably ends up going to Europe, and I think Korpisalo stays, but we'll see what happens there. You put Clarkson on LTIR. You've suddenly got $8 million in cap space. I'm guessing Wenberg gets about $6 million a year. So now you're down to $2 million in cap space. The issue you're going to have as a Columbus fan is you're likely looking at almost the identical roster. Now, the one rookie that's going to be interesting to watch in cap is Pierre Luc Dubois, that number 3 draft pick that knocked down Jesse Puljujarvi and made everybody think Columbus was insane. If Dubois comes in and plays well in training camp, makes this team, you've got a pretty damn good forward group and somebody who probably wants more ice time not getting it because Dubois steps in. And Dubois, they've wanted him to train up to be a center, could come in as a winger because he's played both positions in junior. He's going to push somebody down the lineup. And I didn't forget Sam Gagner either. I just don't see that if they get Wenberg for $5 to $6 million, even say $5 million, that would mean that Gagner coming back off of one of the best years of his career would have to sign for $3 million or less. He should. Gagner's smartest move right now would be to sign a 2-year deal for a bit below market value to stay with the team that has rejuvenated his career. Because he can take a 1-year, $5 million deal for a team that is willing to give him that money. And he could end up in a situation where he doesn't gel as well as he did in Columbus. His stats drop, and then next summer he's UFA and nobody wants to touch him again. I always mention Anson Carter, who left Vancouver to go to Columbus for money. After the Sedins set him up for 30 goals, he went to Columbus. It didn't work out, and he was out of the NHL within a couple years. It's a good situation for Gagner if he can manage to stay in Columbus. But again, there's so much talent in this top 12. So much talent in these forwards. It is intimidating talent up front. You can maybe move some of that talent up front for the blue line, but who are you replacing on the blue line? Not Seth Jones, not Jack Johnson. Jack Johnson played great this year. I talked a lot of smack about Jack Johnson last summer, and I have to give credit where credit's due right now. The guy played fantastic this year at both ends of the ice. He got the defensive game this year. So as much as people want to say bad things about Tortorella, and it's easy to pick on him, Tortorella had to have something to do with that turnaround for Jack Johnson this year because it's the best year he's ever had in his career, and it's not even close. You've got Savard, who's been very good for them. I've had my doubts about David Savard, and he's proven me wrong. Ryan Murray, who's injury prone, I know. But he's still a top 4 defenseman, isn't he? But then you got Werenski. Werenski came out of nowhere. Played fantastic. Rookie of the Year contender. Like, there's so many good parts on this blue line, and then you've got Harrington there as a really good number 6 guy. You got Nudavara, Gabriel Carlson. Like, you've got all these pieces. So you're not trading out a forward to bring in a defenseman necessarily for that group, are you? Do you trade out for draft picks? No. Columbus is in a position right now where if they make the right move, and this is totally on Jarmo Kekalainen. It's totally on Jarmo Kekalainen to figure out. Sorry, my feet are starting to hurt. I'm going to have to move myself down a little bit, go cross-legged for the rest of this, and allow the microphone to be a part of the video. But if Kekalainen can make the right moves this summer, if he can do with this roster something that kicks it up so it gets to the Pittsburgh level, so it gets to the Washington level, and Washington regular season is still going to be very good next year, I think. Again, it depending on the summer, but with the right moves, these guys are going to be talked about as Stanley Cup contenders. It's a legit thing. And, you know, a lot of people are going to migrate back to Tampa. They're going to say, well, Stamkos will be back, Tampa should be back in the playoffs, and rightfully so, and Tampa will be a contender, and they would be. But I'm not selling Columbus short right now. Gravity takes over for some of these teams at the top, and for other ones, they manage to find a way to stay up. And this summer, it's really on Columbus to potentially move up to that number 1 spot in the division, to get that number 1 seed in the East. They've never won a series. They've never shown in the playoffs that they're ready. But they haven't had that many opportunities either. And I really think this is a team that gets back into the playoffs next year, learns from what they went through this year against Pittsburgh, and comes back stronger next year. We'll see what happens. You guys can let me know in the comment section below what you think. I think Columbus has a deadly lineup. I think it's fantastic. Like and subscribe if you're a Columbus fan or just a hockey fan in general. and let me know why I'm right or wrong in the comments below. Thank you for watching. I'll talk to y'all again tomorrow.